Okay, if you're a parent, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say the daycare plague, right? It's that feeling like the second your kid starts group care, a never ending parade of coughs and sniffles just moves right into your house. It's a massive concern for families, for caregivers, everyone. But here's the thing, what if we could build a stronger shield against all of that? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore.
So here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this in 5 parts. First, we'll get a handle on the problem itself. Then we'll get to know our enemy, the germs. After that, it's all about building our defenses, layer by layer. We'll talk about our most powerful shield, then the daily habits that make a huge difference, and finally, how to secure the whole environment.
All right, let's dive right in. First up, we're tackling the big question. You know, the one that's on pretty much every parent's mind. And yeah, science and just real life both confirm it. Kids in group settings, they just get sick more often. We see more respiratory stuff, like colds and more tummy bugs. It kind of makes sense, right? More kids, more germs, more exposure. But is that all there is to it?
And this is where we get some really important perspective. Because, yes, while those sniffles and colds are super common, the really serious stuff, the major life-threatening illnesses, they've been practically knocked out. I mean, a 99.7% decline. That is an incredible public health win, and it's all thanks to the exact prevention methods we're about to dive into.
Okay, so if you want to build a solid defense, you first have to know your enemy, right? So for our next section, let's take a look at how these tiny, invisible invaders actually get around. Basically, germs, we're talking bacteria, viruses, fungi, the whole crew, they have 5 main highways they use to travel from one person to another. You've got the respiratory route, which is through the air, the fecal-oral route, which is exactly what it sounds like, direct contact, like skin to skin, bodily fluids, and then vector-borne, which is when insects like mosquitoes or ticks get involved. Now, in a childcare setting, the number one superhighway for germs is definitely the respiratory route. Just picture a cough or a sneeze. It's not just a puff of air, it's more like a little germ cloud. These tiny contaminated droplets fly out and land on everything, hands, toys, tables, just waiting for the next little one to come along and pick them up. So, we know how the germs are getting around. Now let's talk about our single biggest, most powerful weapon against them. This is the heavy hitter in our entire prevention playbook. The way vaccines work is actually pretty brilliant. It's like they give your immune system a training manual for a specific germ. The vaccine introduces a super weakened or inactive piece of the germ, not enough to make you sick, but just enough for your body to go, whoa, what's this? It learns to recognize it, builds up antibodies, and basically creates a most wanted poster. That way, if the real, nasty version of the germ ever shows up, your body is totally ready to shut it down. And just look at how well they work. We're talking 90 to 100% effective for most childhood vaccines. Seriously, in the world of medicine, getting numbers like that it's just incredible. It's truly one of the most effective tools we've ever created to stop serious diseases in their tracks. Now, you really can't talk about vaccines without addressing a question that has been around for a long time, the one about a possible link between the MMR vaccine and autism. So let's be direct and look at what the research actually says. So this whole thing started with one single study way back in 1998. And as this quote makes crystal clear, a major investigation by the British Medical Journal found that the whole thing was a fraud. The author hadn't just made a mistake, he had actually faked his data. The link he claimed to have found, it just didn't exist. And since that time, study after study after study, we're talking huge global studies, have all looked for a link, and they've all come to the same conclusion. There is no connection between the MMR vaccine and autism. The science is overwhelming on this. And that original author, he was stripped of his medical license. Okay, so moving on from our biggest shield, let's get into the nitty-gritty, the practical, day-to-day things we can all do. This is our daily playbook for keeping those germs on the run. What we're really talking about here is something called universal precautions. It's a term from healthcare, and it's a simple idea. You act as if every situation is potentially infectious. And why do we do that? Well, because people can spread germs before they even feel sick. So these daily habits, they're not just for when someone has a sniffle. They are our absolute front line of defense, all the time. And what's at the very top of that list? You guessed it, good old-fashioned hand washing. But I mean proper hand washing, not just a quick splash. The CDC breaks it down into 5 simple steps. Wet, lather up with soap, scrub everywhere for at least 20 seconds. Yep, that's singing happy birthday twice through. Then rinse and dry. It sounds so simple, but doing this one thing can cut down on diarrheal illnesses by more than 30% and respiratory illnesses by over 20%. That's huge. Okay, here's a little pro tip, especially for caregivers. Wearing gloves is smart, but if you take them off the wrong way, you can end up spreading germs everywhere and defeating the whole purpose. There's a right way to do it. You peel the first glove off from the palm, ball it up in your still gloved hand, and then slide your clean fingers under the cuff of the second glove to peel it off over the first one. See? It traps all the nasty stuff inside.
You know, we throw these words around all the time: cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting, but they are not the same thing. Cleaning, that just gets rid of visible dirt. Sanitizing reduces the number of germs to a safe level, which is great for something like a high chair tray. But disinfecting, that's the heavy-duty one that actually destroys or inactivates the germs, and that's what you want for a diaper-changing table or a toilet.
And yeah, speaking of diaper changing, having a strict routine is absolutely crucial. Following every single step in the right order every single time, from getting your supplies ready before you start to always keeping a hand on the baby, all the way to disinfecting the surface when you're done, it creates this unbroken chain of safety that's key to preventing the spread of germs. All right, let's get to our final section. We've talked about our personal shields and our daily habits. Now it's time to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. We need to secure the whole fortress by thinking about the environment itself. Because a truly healthy space is about so much more than just germs. We've got to think about the air kids are breathing, both inside and outside. We need to be on the lookout for things like mold, handle pests in a safe way, be careful about chemical hazards, and of course, make sure the drinking water is safe and clean. And this is a great example of a smarter approach. When it comes to pests, instead of just grabbing a can of spray, there's something called Integrated Pest Management, or IPM. It's really just common sense. It's all about prevention, sealing up cracks where pests can get in, making sure there's no food or water left out for them. Then you only use the least toxic solutions as a last resort. It's way safer for kids and honestly works better in the long run. And you know, this really brings it all home. At the end of the day, prevention is a team sport. No one person can do it all. Creating a safe, healthy place for kids to grow and learn isn't just about a checklist for the staff. It has to be a real partnership between the caregivers who are on the front lines every day and the families who back them up. So we have covered a ton of ground here, from the incredible power of vaccines all the way down to the 5 steps of proper hand washing. And remember, the goal here isn't to wrap our kids in a sterile bubble. That's impossible. It's about building a smart, strong, resilient shield. So I'll leave you with this question. Now that you have the playbook, what is the one single change you can make starting today to make your child's shield just a little bit stronger?